Well, black people are Native Americans. We've had, a lot of proof that, you know, some of us started here in this land. Everybody wasn't brought over from Africa.
What are they doing here? They're Indians.
This is one of my many unsuccessful experiments. You see, with Indians, there's absolutely nothing to be done. There's the same difference between a Negro and an Indian as there is between a dog and a coyote. You can put a dog on a leash, beat him, and he'll always be there to lick your feet. Take away a coyote's liberty, and you've cut off his heir. An Indian will never be a slave. No one has ever been able to make them reproduce in captivity. They do not eat, they do not talk, they do not sleep, they do not make love.
There are several things that are significant about it. Of course, one of them is the way that colonialism tries to develop all kinds of elaborate classification terms for different kinds of people, but that's another subject. The most significant thing here is to reveal the much greater amounts of Native American ancestry that are present within the African American population than most people realize, because they might have been misled by the use of terms like mulatto and also people of color.
After the African, LeVar Burton, had been told that his name was to be Toby, and he refused it, and he was beaten to make him say his name was Toby.
That was the dramatization. How much of that actually was recounted to you? I mean, was there a lot of interweaving?
A lot of it, I thought maybe you were going to ask, and maybe you are in another way, is how much of the book is fact and how much is fiction. Well, a whole lot of it's fiction. Well, a whole lot of it's fiction. Well, a whole lot of it's fiction.
Now, this is just a tiny bit of information now.
But they take it as huge.
Right, because it's cracking open the door.
There's a place in Africa you could say that I'm from.
A tribe?
A tribe? I am thrilled. It puts a name, a place, a location, a people.
Hank Greeley is concerned that the science isn't really there yet for you to be giving them the name of a tribe.
I think for most companies, I would be concerned too.
But what about your own company?
We have
he
the
didn't
largest...
exclude you. He included you.
But we have the largest set of sequences from Africa. And so with that, we're able to provide some level of probability in terms of frequency.
But he would say that even though you have the largest database, it's still small on the scope of things.
As I said, I share those concerns. We don't oversell. I mean, we just say, look, we provide a service. If you're interested in exploring a tiny bit of your DNA and trace its ancestry, we can do that.
When you say it's a tiny little amount,
it's less than 0.1%. Less than 0.1%. Less than 0.1%.
And that's pretty teeny.
Yeah, but for people who know nothing about any of them, I think it's very important.
You do not know a goddamn thing about Africa. I am from Detroit, Motown. So you can Watusi your monkey ass back to Africa if you want to.
Oh, I just love that ending. I just love that ending. I am in love. It went over my head when I seen it as a child, but now I get it. What's going on? Happy Educational Friday. You guys come on in and like the video. Come on in, like the video. We putting our thinking caps on. And we're putting our listening ears on. Shout out to everybody in the building. Please go ahead and like the video so the people know we around here. Josen, okay? Now you guys, thank you guys for spending your Friday with me. I'm sorry I'm late. Got off work late, but I came here, hurry up, showered, ate, and here we are. I'm sorry. Now, today we're going to talk about the history of school segregation and also Black America. Now, let me say this. We're not only going there. We're going to talk a little bit also about the history of the education system as a whole. As you guys know, Trump has been going around saying that he wants to get rid of the Department of Education. And to the average person, that sounds like the worst thing that could ever happen. But to be completely honest, this Department of Education and the education system as a whole is trash. Okay. It has indoctrinated us to levels where a lot of us can't even get up. Okay. And we're going to discuss a lot of the things that's going on with that. Also, I'm going to introduce again, we've talked about it on this channel, but I'm going to introduce again when the out of Africa theory when the slavery theory was put into play. We've gone over it before, but we'll go over it again. So I need y'all to like the video, and we're going to get right to it. Like I said, shout out to everybody in the building. Y'all hit the like button, hit the thumbs up. And shout out to everybody pulling up from Twitch, who else? Rumble and Facebook. Shout out to everybody. Okay, now let's do this first. Let's start with the history of education, right? Because I think that's extremely important. Now, I've spoken about this before and talked about how Rockefeller was one of the people who invested widely into the system of education. And he did so because he needed workers. That's what this was all about. He went to another group of people called the Pressures, that they had instilled the system to create soldiers. And he took that same system and put it into our education system. So we're going to get into that and why it is we even have one. Because remember, at one point in time back in the day, we used to think that it was a level of ignorance in a negative way to not have college degrees. Oh, my parents couldn't read. They were just ignorant. They were just ignorant. When, to be honest, a lot of them were more smart than we are. They were much smarter than we are. However, this is the thing. We were indoctrinated to believe that education was the key, and this was done by design. Education system has been the catalyst for a lot of things that has messed us up, as people, and we're going to get into it. So let's start first here with the history of education, right? So we're going to go to this documentary I saw, and this is kind of like, this is kind of like the short version of the long one that I saw, but I was like, you know what? This is quick, straight to the point. But it's going to cover all the details. And that's really what matters. So, okay. Hold on. Sorry. There's an ad playing. So you guys buckle up. We're about to get into it. Y'all like the video. Let me skip this ad, y'all. Sorry. We're about to get into it. All right. So to kind of set this thing up. Love you, Great T. Love y'all. How y'all doing? To set this thing up. John D. Rockefeller, along with others, needed the education system to make slaves. You know, the slaves that we be running from. They needed that to make slaves. And they did it through this education system because they knew that with the right levels of indoctrination, they will be able to create what they have now, which is a world full of slaves. This is not a colors thing. This is a status thing. Rockefeller didn't care about the poor clears. He didn't care about the poor Negroes, okay? So let's get into some of this documentary. Hold on.
It wasn't just Rockefeller. No, loads of other rich American tycoons poured billions of dollars into creating the modern-day education system we have today. These are the same wealthy dynasties behind big oil, big food, big pharma, and they all wanted to provide you with free education, while they send their kids to private schools. As Rockefeller once said, I don't want a nation of thinkers, I want a nation of workers. These are the dark origins of our education system, and why you want to stay dangerous.
For generations, experts tended to blame failing schools on failing neighborhoods, but reformers have begun to believe
I've been using every single day for the past 3 years, having all these features. And 4 of them did Poland, and they won. Prussia now occupied Poland at controlling the masses.
Here is where we'll start with the exact origin, the Prussian, that's the name of it, Prussian Empire. This is the catalyst for which we have the education system we have today, okay? Let's get into it.
Origins of the American education system can be traced back to something called the Prussian Empire. The Prussian Empire is the empire that made up modern-day Germany, and these Prussians were geniuses at controlling the masses. See, in the late 1700s, Prussia invaded Poland, and they won. Prussia now occupied Poland, but the Prussians now faced a new problem. Sure, they controlled Poland, but how were they going to get the Polish people to accept their new German rulers? They were the colonizers, the enemy, and yet somehow they needed to get the entire population to throw away their Polish identity and to accept imperial German nationalism. But the Prussians weren't stupid. They knew they had no chance in changing the minds of the adults. The adults were proud Polish people. They were set in their ways. There's no hope in converting them. But the children? The Polish children were much more moldable. And if they could attack the children, they could decimate Polish culture in just 1 generation. So Prussia created a new 8-year education system, where for 8 years kids would go to school and learn things like reading and writing, but they will also learn how to listen to orders. they would learn how to do as they're told, to respect the authority of their Prussian leaders. And this new Prussian education system worked. One Prussian philosopher brilliantly described their education model by writing, "Education should be aimed at destroying free will, so that after pupils are thus schooled, they will be incapable throughout the rest of their lives of thinking or acting otherwise than as their schoolmasters would have wished. When the technique has been perfected, every government that has been in charge of education for more than one generation will be able to control its subjects securely without the need of armies or policemen."
This is very key, very key. This is very key. John D. Rockefeller went to the Prussians and saw how successful they were at the indoctrination of the people through the military, right? And he applied that same thing to us in America, right? Remember, the 1800s, most of us didn't even go to school. Hell, the early 1900s, the ones that did go, they was lucky if you graduated or even came out of 3rd and 4th grade, because you had work to do actually around the crib. But see, this statement right here is very telling. Now, Johann Fichte says, education should be aimed at destroying free will so that after pupils are thus schooled, they will be incapable throughout the rest of their lives of thinking or acting otherwise than as their schoolmasters would have wished. This is powerful. This is how America got the whole world to go inside in 2020. Because we are automatically conditioned, whether we believe it or not, we are automatically conditioned to follow orders. And that starts in pre-K. Now it's the same in daycare. So from the moment you're able to even think about anything, you're being taught what to think and how to think. Okay? This is very, very important. All right, now let's go back into it.
It was as poetic as it was true. Basically, if you want a submissive population that you can rule over, you have to destroy their free will. You have to condition them not to think. Thinking is the enemy, and you have to start this conditioning when they're as young as possible. So, every Polish and Prussian child was required to attend school for 8 years. 8 years where day in and day out, these kids were force-fed so much Prussian patriotism that by the time they left school, obedience to the Prussian monarchy was the only reality they knew. The Prussian system was so effective that it caught the eye of one person, an influential American politician by the name of Horus Mann. And Horus Mann planned on exporting this Prussian model to the good old US of A.
Y'all ever thought about why the rules about having to go to school are so stringent? If your child doesn't go to school, you go to jail. Now, they posit this as a positive because they want you to believe that they just want your child to get an education. That is not true. If you start pulling your child from school and you start doing homeschooling things and all of that, even then, it still you still get a doctrine that you have to follow to an extent. But if most people, I don't care what color, started pulling their children from schools, that would create a whole bunch of free thinkers. The government cannot have that. This is why when, and I'm just using right now as an example, when Trump said he's going to get rid of the Department of Education, Scamala goes into this whole scare tactic. Oh my God, this man is horrible. He's trying to get rid of the public Department of Education. Now, to the average person, you're thinking, no, because how will my children learn to read and write? How will they learn how to do this, that, and the third? School is vital, and it should be, but it's not. It was never designed to be that. It was never designed to be that. So I want y'all to keep that in mind when we talking about this school stuff, because it gets crazy. Now let's get into Horus Mann, and then we're going to get into Rockefeller, then we're going to get into the lesson.
Horus Mann was passionate about reforming American education. It was his life's duty. So in 1843, he traveled across Europe visiting schools to get ideas. But no education system impressed him more than the Prussian model. To him, the Prussian model was a work of art. Here was the roadmap to molding children into anything the elite wanted. If the Prussian model could remove every single trace of Polish culture, what could it do for America? With the Prussian model, it wouldn't matter if kids were Protestant, Catholic, Black, an immigrant, Native American, or even atheists, because we would be able to permanently instill patriotism, duty, and hard work into all of them. And with Horus Mann's political influence, tax-funded public schools following the Prussian model slowly started popping up all over America. And slowly but surely, parents, teachers, those in charge, and society as a whole started to accept the Prussian model as the only sensible way to educate the youth. Instead of one big class, schools were divided into separate classes for kids of different ages. Horus also wanted mainly women to be the teachers, which is why women dominate the teaching field today. Teachers were even sent to Prussia to learn firsthand how their system worked. Authorities bought into the Prussian model so much that by 1864, Congress made it illegal for Native American kids to be taught in their native languages. Instead, they were sent to faraway boarding schools so teachers could kill the Indian to save the man.
Now let me pause right here, because see, you got to be able to catch the bull. All right, I want to explain something about what was just said. In 1864, Native Americans were not able to go to school. Now, there were Native American boarding schools. That's a fact. Okay, we have a Horus Mann Junior High. Wow, you'd be surprised the things y'all these schools and stuff is named after. That's crazy. So look, there was a Native American boarding school, yes, but the phrase "kill the Indian and save the man" applied to the the Niji. It applied to the Black Indian. It applied to the indigenous Indian. That "kill the Indian, save the man" thing, that did not refer to the Native American in their school. They had to be taught how to be Native Americans. That's what their school was all about. Kill the Indian and save the man. See, this is why they conflate them together. So you get confused. So you say, oh, kill the Indian, save the man. They're talking about the Native Americans. No, that's false. They are talking about you and me and our ancestors. That's who they're talking about. Okay? Yeah, you see it, Carrie? They trying to mix the dope. You got to catch the history remix. That's what I'm saying. They very clever with that. And when you go to look this stuff up, they'll put them together, because if you don't think twice or you don't know any better, you're going to automatically assume Indian, Native American. All right, bet. That didn't go like that. So please, when you're doing research and you're doing history and all that stuff, that's why it's good to compare, contrast stuff that you know before and learn before, because they will put the hijack in there so quick, you won't even know it. You won't even know it. So I just wanted to add that part in because they thought they were slick with that.
By the end of the 1800s, the Prussian model had taken over America. And by 1900, almost every American state made public school mandatory, meaning that you had to give up your kid to the states or get the kid taken away from you and thrown in prison. Horus Mann changed the face of American public education forever, but the public school system wasn't in its final form yet, because as much as the Prussian model did wonders for the government, it still didn't do much for businessmen like you. And as John D. Rockefeller, you also saw the power of the Prussian model on the masses, and you plan on systematically infiltrating it.
Now, Horus Mann is trying to make mental slaves, and John D. Rockefeller said, well, shit, I need some work. I need workers. Remember, he's in the oil business now. He needs people to work in these factories. So he says, let me throw my coins on it and make sure that this thing goes off without a hitch so that I can get people to work in factories. It was all a scheme, girl. It was all a scheme. Look.
By the late 1800s, school was mandatory. They were using the Prussian model, but there was still a giant problem. There wasn't any standard curriculum to follow. So most kids ended up learning nothing that would make them useful in an oil refinery, mine, or factory. It doesn't matter how submissive or obedient they are. If they don't have the baseline education needed for your labor, you needed submissive, obedient workers that were also educated to your standards, educated on how work will set them free. So what did you do? You went to your closest confidant, a man named Friedrich T. Gates, and together the two of you created the General Education Board. On the outside, the General Education Board sounded like this very official government board that looked over the education system in America. And that's exactly the vibe you were going for, when in reality, you just created this thing out of thin air and named it the General Education Board. That is the power of a great name. And a year later, thanks to your connections in Washington, the General Education Board went official. It was incorporated by an act of Congress in 1903 with the purpose of the promotion of education in the United States of America without distinction to race, sex, or creed. A very noble sounding cause. While at the same time, this entity would be your Trojan horse to inject more than $3.5 billion in today's money into the public school system. Today, a few $billion wouldn't make a dent in the monstrosity that is our public school system. But back then, it was still in its infancy, so $3.5 billion was way more than enough to mold it into whatever you wanted. So with the money and the government charter in hand, the board went on to fund a vast number of public high schools. 912 high schools in the southern states alone by 1914. You also funded universities, medical schools, Ivy League schools, so that when kids finished their conditioning in high school, they would continue their conditioning in higher education.
You get it? You get it? And listen, they sensationalized it amongst Black America with what? What was our school system, our secondary education, or our extended education? Through the HBCU, who is named by all who? Clear people. You gotta catch the teeth. Yes, conditioning, Kim. Yes, conditioning. That's what this is all about. That's literally what this whole system is all about. And they sensationalize it with HBCUs to make the Black people, because it wasn't just that. Other elders thought that they would be able to get a better up in life if they had more education. So that was also pushed. But what I'm saying is, I didn't want to go to an HBCU until I seen the advertisement. My advertisement was school days in a different world. They used all these things work and intertwine together. Mind you, you thinking, I know I did. I'm thinking I'm gonna go to college, I'm gonna get a degree, I'm gonna make a lot of money, I'm gonna do well for myself. Girl, lies, the lies. And if you talk to a college child today or a college person today, because improvise, you ain't lying. The college folks are really indoctrinated. Let me tell you something. If you talk to a college person today, they have big words, don't get me wrong, and they speak, or they seem to speak intelligently to people who don't know what they're talking about. But they are the dumbest. Listen, and I'm not being shady. I got to say this part. They are the slowest ones of us all. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. They come up with stuff that makes literally no sense. But because of that level of indoctrination, none of them will question it. They'll just go with it and then repeat it as if it's fact. I'm telling you, this is real life. Like they say, they have to condition the people. A little bit more, we're going to go on to the next.
These are the origins of America's love affair with college degrees, by the way.
College graduation has never been more valuable than it is today.
And soon other business tycoons started jumping in on the...
You saw Barry? You saw Barry? Hold on.
Graduation has never been more valuable than it is today.
And soon other business tycoons started jumping in on the action. By 1905, Andrew Carnegie, the steel magnate, founded the Carnegie Foundation for the Advancement of Teaching. Not because he wanted people to learn about the world and become innovators, but because he needed mine managers, operators, engineers, repairmen, smelters, and railroad conductors. And the public started to catch on all this big money moving into education. In 1914, the National Education Association said that,
"We view with alarm the activity of the Carnegie and Rockefeller Foundations, agencies not in any way responsible to the people, in their efforts to control the policies of our state educational institutions, to fashion after their conception and to standardize our courses of study, and to surround the institutions with conditions which menace true academic freedom."
But your infiltration of education had picked up too much steam, too much momentum. There was no way it was going to slow down now. By 1918, every single state started requiring kids to complete elementary school, and it just picked up from there. From standardized tests to the Carnegie-funded textbooks, to the Department of Education, to labeling and medicating kids that don't do well in this Rockefeller model of education. And your boy Friedrich T. Gates, who you created the General Education Board with, put it perfectly when he explained what he envisioned for America's education system.
"In our dream, we have limitless resources, and the people yield themselves with perfect docility to our molding hand. The present educational conventions fade from our minds, and unhampered by tradition, we work our own goodwill onto a grateful and responsive rural folk. We shall not try to make these people or any of their children into philosophers or men of learning or of science. We are not to raise up among them authors, orators, poets, or men of letters. We shall not search for embryo great artists, painters, musicians, nor will we cherish even the humble their ambition to raise up among them lawyers, doctors, preachers, statesmen, of whom we now have ample supply.
That is the education system Rockefeller wanted.
Now, because he done basically went over everything. Shout out to this clear man on this documentary. Listen, this is very important. Now, fast forward. Now, what we know before we fast forward is the system was not put in place to help us. Has it helped us? Yes. We learned how to read, write. A lot of us are, have become intelligent. A lot of us have had amazing experiences. Some of us have wonderful jobs because of the education that we had. But the facts are this: the mass majority of the people who go through education, especially through college and thereafter, are so deeply indoctrinated, they don't even realize. It's worse than religion almost. Now, fast forward. We know what the education system was about, right? I need y'all to come over here right quick. Trump says he's going to get rid of the Department of Education. That's the same thing we was just talking about. Why? You saw Barry was on there talking about, we can't let him get rid of, Barry was on there. Education is so important. They always promote it because they need you to become what? Slaves. Now watch Kamala's response and how passionate she is about not allowing Trump to get rid of the Department of Education. Hold on.
Not going to let him eliminate the Department of Education that funds our public schools. Not going to let him eliminate the Department of Education that funds our public schools.
Let me tell you something about the funds from the Department of Education. That is why the curriculum is what it is. See, it's all about kickbacks. It's what it's all about. All of this is about kickbacks. You need, I have a whole bunch of money. Your state might need some money. Hey, I hook y'all up with some monions, but you got to teach this. And guess what them people up at the top saying? Okay, because they kids go to private school. They don't have to deal with this. So when you see Kamala getting everybody all up in arms, because it sounds horrible, like, oh my God, he's trying to get rid of the Department of Education. But this is the modern day result of what was then. And let me just say this as well. Our children coming out of school and can't read anyway. So what's the point? It ain't like, at least when we were going to school, we learned how to read. These children can't even read or write. Let's talk about it. They can't even write, let alone read. So watch the hijack and watch all this crap, because I'm telling y'all, it's real out here in the field. I just wanted to add that part before we get into the segregated schools bit. But I'm telling y'all, bro, it's so much going on behind under our noses, and we had no idea, myself included. And we just going around like aimlessly, not even realizing we getting played. I would listen, if my daughter wasn't trying to be a doctor, I would tell her not to go to college. I would. If she wasn't trying to be a physical therapist, I would literally convince her not to go to college. The only reason I say, okay, let's do college is because of the career field she chose. She has to go to school in order to legally practice any type of medicine. But on my soul, if my daughter would have told me she wanted to be anything other than a doctor or a lawyer, I'd have been like, girl, let's find another way to go about this. Okay? That's just me. Everybody's different, but that's just me. Now, let's start with schools, right? Now, remember, I told y'all, I said, when it comes to this slavery theory, the slavery thing, that was first introduced to us in the late 50s, early 60s. And I'm going to show you a video. I've played it on this channel before, where we saw how Black Americans first saw that they were slaves. This is through the education system. Now, prior to the 50s, these schools were segregated. Now, this is the thing. A lot of the clear schools were better. They had better books. They had better environment and all that stuff. A lot of the Negro schools were not. It was segregated, though. Prior to them desegregating these schools, they taught the clears one thing. They taught the Negroes another. When it came down to the slavery bit, they taught the clears before they taught the Negroes. We were the last ones to find out. Remember, I keep telling y'all, it's like everybody's in this big joke, and we the only ones that don't know about it. So, upon desegregating schools, and we're going to get into Brown versus Education, Board of Education, we're going to get into Ruby Bridges from out in New Orleans. Upon desegregating schools, this is when they were able to really hone in on pushing the narrative that we were slaves. So that's one thing that we're going to go over. Then we're also going to go over what some of the people had to say back then about the segregating and desegregating of schools. And we're going to see in this video, in this live, how the children were used to push the agenda, as they always have. It's always through the kids. It's never through the adults. Even when we just watched this documentary I just showed y'all, they told y'all they knew they couldn't do nothing to the old people, the adults, because they were already not indoctrinated, but they already had their minds made up. You have to do everything through the kids. Okay? So, before we get into that, let's get into Brown versus education. Now, we're on segregating and desegregating schools. Remember, I told y'all this before. A lot of this stuff is all propaganda. And I know it's going to be hard to hear for some people, and I get it, and I don't know what to tell you. But a lot of the things that we were taught that was for our advancement was a bunch of propaganda. All these things had to happen. The court case of Brown versus education had to happen. Ruby Bridges had to go to school. Rosa Parks had to get on it. But all these things had to happen in order to get us where we are now. The world is a stage. You just don't realize you are in the audience, okay? Now, let's go over Brown versus Board of Education. It says 1954, in this milestone decision, the Supreme Court ruled that separating children in public schools on the basis of race was unconstitutional. It signaled the end of legalized racial segregation in the schools of the United States, overruling the separate but equal principle set forth in 1896 Plessy versus Ferguson case. Now, ask yourself this. They desegregated the schools before they desegregated the South. Why would they do that? Black people didn't even have a chance to vote. They weren't even allowed to vote in most places. But you have it in my best interest to put me in a mixed school, to put my child in a school amongst the clears? Think about it. Just think about it. If the government really had your best interest at heart, then why would they desegregate the schools before they desegregate the South? And then on that note, why would the school thing happen when a lot of us didn't even have the right to vote? These are questions. Remember, I want you guys to do this. I talk about this on my morning jokes all the time. Let's stop focusing on the what. The what is always obvious. We need to start focusing on the why. Why were they in such a rush to desegregate these schools? Not to mention, if Ruby Bridges had not went up them stairs and went inside that schoolhouse with the National Guard and the FBI and then people cussing and spitting at her, then you would not be moved, Black America, to send your children into what? The desegregated schools. So again, moving forward in anything you come across, we are the what will always be obvious. You don't have to examine the what. Your eyes are going to tell you the what. We need to start getting our wheels turning and start asking the why. That's always the most important, okay? Now, so Brown versus Board of Education, right? Hold on, let me go down here. Oh, I'm sorry. It looked different on my phone. Okay. May 17, 1954, U.S. Supreme Court Justice Earl Warren delivered the unanimous ruling in the landmark civil rights case Brown versus Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas. State-sanctioned segregation of public schools was a violation of the 14th Amendment and was therefore unconstitutional. This historic decision marked the end of the separate but equal precedent set by the Supreme Court nearly 60 years earlier in Plessy versus Ferguson, right? It says, and served as a catalyst for the expanding civil rights movement during the decades of the 1950s. Now, this is prior to Mike being big. This is prior to all of the civil rights people, right? Arguments were to be heard during the next term to determine just how the ruling will be imposed. Just over 1 year later, May 31st, 1955, Warren read the court's unanimous decision, now referred to as Brown II or Brown II, instructing the states to begin desegregation plans with all deliberate speed. Let me also add this. The clears at the bottom were not in on this. The Hispanics at the bottom were not in on this. The people at the bottom were not in on this. It was your politicians and your elites. All of them knew what was going on, but the average person was not in on it. That's why you got pushback from both sides about desegregating, busing, and all of those things, right? Mind you, so when and this is done by design, they plant these seeds so that they can bloom later. They needed the clears not to like the Negroes, and they needed the Negroes to not want to be amongst the clears to draw sensationalism. So keep that in mind as we're reading. Despite 2 unanimous decisions and careful, if vague wording, there was considerable resistance to the Supreme Court ruling in Brown versus Board of Education. In addition to the obvious disapproving segregationists, were some constitutional scholars who felt that the decision went against legal tradition by relying heavily on data supplied by social scientists rather than the precedent or established law. So these are hired people as well, social scientists. Now, they're the ones giving the data to the people saying that we need to go ahead and desegregate. Supporters of judicial restraint believe the court had overstepped its constitutional powers by essentially writing new law. However, minority groups and members of the civil rights movement were buoyed by the Brown decision, even without specific direction for implementation. Proponents of the judicial activism believe that the Supreme Court had appropriately used its position to adapt the basis of Constitution to address new problems in new times. The Warren Court stayed this course for the next 15 years, deciding cases that significantly affected not only race relations, but also the administration of criminal justice, the operation and the political process, and the separation of church and state, which has never been real. But okay. Yes, Lala, they needed to provoke emotion. And we're going to get into that. Now, we've gone here, right? Let's go get Ruby Bridges. Ruby Bridges was the little girl in New Orleans. Her mama sent her to school in New Orleans, to a clear school. And y'all remember the people was down there acting a fool and woo, 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 woo. Let's go get Ruby Bridges and her journey down to the schoolhouse. I would have never subjected my 5-year-old with this bull. I'm sorry. Everybody different, but I'm sorry. I would have never subjected my 5-year-old to that type of scrutiny. But again, allegedly, money talk, bush walks. Okay? Allegedly, I don't know. It's a theory. Okay? Let's get into it.
France Elementary School. Her steps were recreated Friday by students at the 9th Ward School. And now we want to bring you an interview Sally Ann Roberts did with Bridges 10 years ago for the 50th anniversary.
There you are with Shaquille O'Neal.
Shaquille, I actually did the Read to Achieve program with him in Los Angeles. Walt Frazier, and this was in New York.
Ruby Bridges is a civil rights icon who speaks to schools and community groups around the country.
This is such a great question. See what happens when we start to explore the whys. Why wasn't it a little boy? You know why? Because nobody would sympathize with a young Black boy. To this day, they don't sympathize with none of us. But if you got to use a child, it's got to be a girl. Because, see, we need to provoke all these emotions and have these people over there saying, oh, I really want to send my child to these schools because we need it to be a baby. Listen, they could have got a high schooler to do that. Everything is done by design. Everything. They needed it to be a little girl. They needed her to be around the age of where people would sympathize more with her, and they needed it to be blasted amongst all everywhere. Okay? They needed it. Sabdat said my cousin and her friend did it before Ruby. And you know what? I know you ain't lying because it's just like Rosa Parks. She was not the one who was kicked off the bus for not giving her a seat. But they got to replay it. Remember, I told you the world is a stage. The world is a stage. We just don't realize that we're sitting in the audience. Everything is done by design. Keep that in mind. But I love that we're exploring the whys. Why a little girl? It had to be a little girl. It had to be. And just like we went over with Rosa Parks, they hurry up and set it up. I'm talking about like a Hollywood movie for Rosa Parks for it to happen to her the way that it happened. It took them a year to get Rosa Parks to get that production, because that's what it was. It took them a whole year to get that production up and running. Okay? Now, let's get back to Ruby with her crazy ass. Girl.
Her Jefferson Parish home is filled with mementos of her achievements, among them a Presidential Citizens Medal she received from Bill Clinton. And there's an elementary school named after her in Alameda, California.
A very diverse, mixed school.
Her award-winning book, Through My Eyes, is filled with archival photographs of crowds that greeted her at William Frantz Elementary School in 1960.
This whole street was lined with people, and on both sides of the street, and they were screaming and shouting, and they were throwing things, but it looked like they were waving their hands. And I remember police officers being on horseback, motorcycles. So I actually thought I was in the midst of a parade. I thought it was Mardi Gras that day. They were chanting 2, 4, 6, 8, we don't want to integrate. And I think that stuck with me. Being 6, it rhymed.
The first grader didn't realize when U.S. Marshals escorted her into Frantz School that she was making history. They seemed like very big steps back then.
Oh, absolutely. I remember that. They seemed like, the school was huge. And the stairs, seemed really, really big.
Frantz School is in the process of being rebuilt in the wake of Katrina, but this gutted building holds many memories for Ruby, especially room 215, where she met her teacher, Mrs. Henry.
And she said, come in and take a seat. And I remember standing here and looking into this very room and seeing just empty desk. So I really thought that my mother had brought me to school too early that day.
But she hadn't.
Well, probably years too early in their minds.
Ruby spent most of the year alone in that classroom being taught by Mrs. Henry. She says Barbara Henry was a compassionate teacher. Eventually, some white children returned to school, and she learned later their families experienced the same type of harassment her family experienced.
There were some white parents who tried to cross that picket line to bring their kids to school with me. They were not protected by federal marshals. And there's some actual footage where they're being interviewed and they talked about how they were harassed, how their husbands were fired.
Ruby says through it all, she grew in her faith.
My mom used to say, oh, don't worry about those people. They're crazy. They need praying for. And I believe that because she also said, Ruby, if you're ever afraid and I'm not with you, you can always say your prayers. And for me, my prayers worked.
Ruby went on to graduate from high school and married Malcolm Hall. They've been together for more than 3 decades and have 4 children, but they've also known tragedy. In April of 2005, their son Dana was driving on I-10 with his 2 young children when someone drove up and opened fire.
My grandson was shot through his knee and once through his ankle. He had to learn how to walk all over again. And my granddaughter was hurt in the accident, but my son was shot through the shoulder and the bullet lodged in the back of his neck.
They survived, but she says her oldest son, Craig, was determined to track down suspects by speaking to witnesses.
And I remember looking at him and saying, it's just leave it alone. And he just said, no, Mom. Somebody has to say something. This is ridiculous. This has to stop.
Craig never got the answer he was looking for. The husband and doting father was murdered July 4th, 2005. The next month, Katrina swamped the family's New Orleans East home.
Then when Hurricane Katrina hit, it really kind of snapped me.
Girl, no disrespect, but it sounded like Craig was selling drugs. Can we talk about it? I'm from the city. Ain't nobody running down on no nigga for no reason. That don't go like that. If somebody run down on you and then you live and then they come back and run down on you again, it sounds like Craig was in the streets. Okay? No disrespect, but I gotta call it a thing. We all know how it go. Ain't no nigga running down on you twice for no reason. Craig was outside. Rest in peace to Craig, but Craig was outside. Okay? Talking about he trying to get witnesses. Girl, Craig was trying to get catchback. Rest in peace to Craig, though. Craig wasn't looking for no witnesses. Who you think Craig was going to the police? Ma'am, go lay down. Craig would probably went around the city and tore it up. Okay? But rest in peace to Craig. I just didn't want her to, it's giving acting skills to me. I don't know.
Out of a state of depression that I was in. I really felt like, my world had changed so much that now everything was changed and new. And it was a new beginning.
Ruby Bridges, a symbol of the civil rights movement of the 60s, sees education as an answer to today's civil rights challenge.
So I see this school as a portal, not just to bring kids together, not just to teach history the way history happened, but also to resurrect a neighborhood. And for some reason, that seems like a very grandiose plan to most people. But I always say that it was a grandiose plan that brought me up these stairs 50 years ago.
Now, let's be clear. Ruby was a baby. She didn't know what was going on. She didn't know what was going on because she was a baby. But girl, ain't no way in the midst of segregation, we ain't even desegregated, even if we was. I'm not relinquishing my child to no clear people. So and girl, they around here assassinating people and stuff. Hell no. My child, go get somebody else, baby. Not this one. Oh, no. Go knock on the neighbor's door. My child is hell no. Call me after they desegregate and things get comfortable. I'll bring my child. But that's just me. Everybody's different. But again, all of this had to happen for the sensationalism. This is another advertisement for school. That's what this was all about. Because remember, in the 50s, you got to understand, them people wasn't as highly educated as they are now either. They was not. So this was also propaganda, right? This was propaganda used to get you more, us, Black Americans, more attracted to the ideals or the idea of school. Facts, right? Now, a lot of the stuff I said was allegedly about the getting paid. Allegedly. But yeah, I said what I said on the other part. You know what I'm saying? Now hold on. Now I want to show y'all. Remember I told y'all that everybody was not in on the joke. Remember I said it's a status thing. I said they got people. I'm sorry, hold on. I said they got people at the top and at the bottom, right? But the people at the top are the ones that are behind the board. Hold on. I told y'all that. Now, I want to show you guys live reaction of what some of these people had to say, listen, about this doggone school desegregation. Now, this is in the 70s. This is 1970 we're dealing with right here. In 1970, they started the busing system. They started the real desegregating, right? So 1970, shout out to Hezekiah News. Yeah, they still paying Ruby, girl. Yes, she was a government employee. She probably didn't know that as a child, but she know it now. Ruby was a government employee, like Mike and them. Get into it. Yes. So look, this in this 1970, they're doing interviews, asking people. They're desegregating the school in Houston. Shout out to Houston. They desegregating the school in Houston. They busing, they zoning, school zones. That's where all of this come in. Remember, zoning also aligned with what? Housing, redlining. That's why in most of your impoverished neighborhoods, them kids can only go to that school in that neighborhood. That's why when you buy houses, what do you check for? The school system. You want to make sure the house that you buy is in a good school system, because unless you pay for your child to go to private school, you cannot say, I don't want my child to go to this school. I want my child to go to that school. Women have been arrested for lying. My mama did this when we was in school. My mama got us to go to a better school by saying that one of her friends' address was our address. That wasn't true. Now in 2024, you go to jail. So the reason why zoning was put in place, because remember, this school desegregation is for you and for me and to make us all better. Kumbaya, heal the world type teeth. That wasn't what this was about. And listen, when you watch this documentary, you're going to see, I tell y'all all the time, race is a poor man's game. The rich and the elite go off status. So guess what? If the clears had to go over there and get into it, then oh well, the clears, you got to get it. Now let's get into this documentary, and we're not going to go through the whole thing, but we're going to skip through some of these interviews, and there's one at the end that's extremely vital that you need to know, that's going to drive home the point that everybody at the top is in on it and the people at the bottom were not, just like today. Hold on, let's get this up here.
Let's go with me like this is our school. We bought and paid for it. We just asked you, would you enter these kids that were zoned out?
I can't do this. You see, the Houston Independent School District is under federal court order.
When it is convenient to them.
Hold on, because this Hispanic dude gonna be spitting. I don't want you to hear first what he had to say. But listen, remember, he's saying, listen, ma'am, the law has already been written. This is before the charter school system came into play. So a lot of public schools had their own separate entities. They did not go all under the government. So when you getting pushback from all these people going, these FBI agents and all these people going to these schools saying, hey, y'all, the law said you need to desegregate. The schools are saying you can kiss the blackest part of my you know what. I'm not, or the clearest part of my you know what. I'm not doing nothing, because they were not governed at the time by the federal government. Funded by who? Not all of them. I'm talking about some of them. Some of them were not funded by the Department of Education that we know of as today. Now let's get into it, because I want pay attention to this man. He gonna be spitting at the end. We gonna get into it though.
They do it.
I think it's just the parents that are uptight about it. I mean, I'm not uptight. I mean, I don't really care.
Dr. Martin Luther King said that we shall all come together someday, and this has become that day.
So far, school.
You saw that influence? The clear girl said it ain't that big of a deal. It's just the parents. Look what the black girl said. Well, Dr. Martin Luther King said we should all come together someday. The indoctrination, they use the kids.
Dr. Martin Luther King said that we shall all come together someday, and this has become that day.
So far, school integration here in Houston, as defined by the federal court, is being accomplished. But there are many angry, frustrated, and confused parents here today. They want to know, once and for all, from Washington, what exactly is meant by school integration. They'd like to hear it from the U.S. Supreme Court, but if they do not, they will be looking directly at the White House for some answers. Don Farmer, ABC News in Houston. Is uptight about it. Let me talk to you for a second. This is your first year here also, right?
Yes, sir.
What do you think about changing schools and going here?
Well, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's just that we got to go, a little bit further. Well, I don't know. It's okay.
How do your parents feel about this?
Well, they were trying to get me in a private school, but, it's closer over here, and they'd have to pay a lot more. And they came over here, and they thought it was real nice.
Her mom and them wanted to put her in a private school, but couldn't afford it. That's what she's saying. Once they started integrating the schools, her mom and daddy started looking in the private school, but realized they couldn't afford it. So now you got to bus your child way across town because of school zoning. It's crazy.
Do you have any feelings about going to school with a lot of black people?
Well, not really. I mean, if they're nice to me, I'll be nice to them. A lot of them are nice.
You don't see any problems, then, do you?
No, not really.
A lot of adults seem to think there are going to be some.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times I hear in a newspaper and everything, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's true.
Some people say if we'd all just get out of here and let the children and the young people work it out, everything would be all right. What do you think?
Well, they could be true. They could be true.
What?
That it could work out. I mean, a lot of people think it should be freedom of choice, but it really doesn't matter. Just that they're getting equal rights.
And you're in favor of that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Jim?
That was the illusion. You thought, and we did too, because they're going to interview a black man. We thought this would advance us. That's a lie.
This is Sharon Whitfield, right?
Yes, sir.
You've been to this school before, Sharon?
Yes, sir.
You have a lot of new classmates this year, white kids for the first time. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think it's like...
You or what?
Yes, sir. It's just my first day going to school with these kids.
How does it feel? Does it feel different to you?
It feels the same way as going together with all the black kids. It feels the same to me.
Some people say the parents make more to do about all this than the young people. What do you think about that?
Oh, I don't understand your question.
Well, some people say the parents worry more about integrating the schools than the kids. What do you think?
I don't know. We just have to go along with what they say about it.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
What grade are you in, Sharon?
8.
Can I talk to you, Miss? This is Patricia Baker. Miss Baker, you've been here before at the school, right?
No, I have.
These some beautiful, Niji women. You listen. These are some beautiful Niji children. Let me tell you something. Can't nobody convince me that we is no goddamn Africans. We don't, there's the essence of us ain't got nothing to do with no damn African. We're going to get into that in a minute. But I'm just looking at these babies. These are some beautiful Niji babies. Do you hear me?
Well, this is your first year here.
Uh-huh.
What are your thoughts about going to school with so many white kids for the first time?
Well, I think it's all right. You know, I think we all should be together. And I hope that we could get along together.
How do your parents feel about it?
Well, really, I won't be going here because I'll have to go to Farnsville. And I think I'll be with more white over at Farnsville than I will over here.
So, do your parents say anything, your folks?
No, they didn't say anything. They said that it would be nice, you know, to have the white and the black together.
Now, pay attention. The other clear girl is about status. It's not about race. The clear girl, the skinny one, said her mama and them, once they zoned them to this school, her mama and them was trying to put her in private school. It's a status thing. Her parents, on a wage level, is probably the same wage grade as everybody in that school. All the parents that have kids will go to that school. Now, this little girl, she's going to have to go to another school because probably, this is me making assumptions, probably because her parents' wage in maybe her area where she lives does not zone her to this school. So she's saying the school that I'm going to is going to have more clears over there than the ones over here. And that's probably because she comes from a probably decent or well-to-do family. That's just how it goes. It was never about race. That's how they keep us divided at the bottom. It was always about status. I just wanted to make that clear.
L.H. Powell.
Powell?
Powell, uh-huh.
Mrs. Powell, you're is it the daughter or son?
I have 2 sons.
And they're coming here for the first time. What are your thoughts about them going to this school, which apparently is about half black and half white?
Well, we've had mixed emotions. I've known all summer that my older boy will come here. This is a new thing this week with the younger one. And we have no objections to the black students. I said our objection is the area this school is in and the conditions we'll have to come to school in. To drive and bring our children is dangerous.
AKA, they got to go through the hood. You get it? Listen, AKA, she said all of that to say, let me sum it up, girl. I don't mind bringing my children over here, but we got to go through the hood to get here. And that's dangerous for me. That's what she's saying.
Skip one space, start writing your name, the school you go to, the grade you're in, exactly what these races you up here. Do not skip space. Now, you don't skip space.
I want to show y'all. This is when he's doing a lot of talking. This right here. Listen, see this clear woman? Bruh, when I tell you this brought back so much nostalgia, this clear woman, the way she dealing with these kids, interacting with these babies, bruh, on my soul, you can't find a teacher like that in 2024. Watch this clear woman. Hold on.
I can be in Miss Easley's room. You smile pretty. Will you please look over here and smile pretty? Am I in the way? Lovely girls and boys. 31 of them and 21 boys. Isn't that a happy thought? 21 and 10. Look at that. Look at those gentlemen here. I didn't know they were going to be here to take your picture. Look at that. Now, you look real pretty. New dresses. and your new shirt, and you're all so pretty and ready for school. No one's crying. Oh, I'm happy I had this wonderful class. Mrs. Easley and you children are going to have so much fun together. We're really going to have fun. Are you? How many's ready for school? How many's glad they're here today? Let me see your hands up if you're glad you came. Oh, boy. Oh, I'm so glad you came, too. I've just been waiting and waiting all week to see you. Ding! Miss Easley doesn't have a bell. All right. Now, I'm going to stay and come behind. I came out in front. Now, you follow one behind the other. Here's a little boy that got pushed out of his place. We must stay in line. Now walk on in real nice and go to your little chairs. Oh, that is fine. And Donald, I'm so proud of you because you're smiling at me. Isn't he pretty with dimples?
Let me tell y'all something, bro. I know these are a bunch of clear kids, and I know she's a clear woman. But that aside, the interaction between this lady and them babies, because they look like she said they're 5, so they got to be in kindergarten. You know what I'm saying? The interaction between them kids is so vital. It's so vital. That's part of the reason why a lot of our kids are jacked up today too. There's no actual genuineness. Not none, because I'm not going to say that. They got some teachers who are really here, you know, and really care about their job and what they do. But more now today, they don't give a damn. They there for the check. They tapped out. I can't say I necessarily blame them because I was going to be a teacher too, and I tapped out early. You know what I'm saying? But just the interaction between that lady and them babies, how vital that is, we'll never get that back. I'm just telling you now. I don't want to say never, so let me knock on wood. It's gonna be a long time before we get something like that back. I just want to add that, and take the clear woman out of it. I'm pretty sure somebody has a teacher they know or some type of experience in school at some point in their life with a teacher who genuinely gave a damn about these kids. It's just so hard to find that today, Lord. It's crazy.
Mrs. Barbara Chambers, what are your thoughts on bringing your daughter to school here today?
With us because we are definitely way down in the minority over here. There was barely 100 white students here. And I feel like if they're going to be fair, they ought to make it this way all over the city.
Tell me why you were so upset. What kind of thoughts were you having this morning?
It just upset me. The neighborhood that we had to come through to get over here, leaving her over here by herself. I feel like maybe she might be in danger, although I've been assured that she'll be well taken care of. It's hard to put it into words how you feel.
Ma'am, you are a poor clear and you are zoned according to you and your husband's income. Probably your husband. You probably don't work nowhere. Ma'am, you listen. I know you got to go through the hood is dangerous. Hell, I'd be scared to go through the hood. But ma'am, you are where you belong per the law, ma'am. That's why it's only 100 white kids at that school. Because y'all are poor whites, ma'am. Poor. And it's okay. It's going to build character in them children. It's all right. It's all right. But you are where you belong, ma'am. This lady look like her. She's devastated. Her whole world is over, girl.
Do you feel any better now than you did when you arrived this morning?
I have settled down a little bit.
And how about your daughter? How does she feel?
I don't believe it's bothering her as much as it's bothering me. I really don't.
Maybe that's the answer, huh?
Yeah. They are young. They're looking for the best parts of it. And they want to be fair, too.
Will you bring your daughter back here tomorrow?
Yes. I brought her this morning. I'll bring her back tomorrow.
But you're going to worry a lot, right?
Yeah, I'll worry. I won't have a moment that I won't be worried. In fact, I intend to stay here all day until she's out at 3.
How old is she?
She's just barely 13. And this junior and senior combination bothers me, too. I feel like she's thrown in with older boys and girls that she wouldn't be in a regular junior high school.
It's giving me, she think her daughter going to get R-worded tease. You going to stay there till 3 o'clock? Ma'am, it's 7 o'clock in the morning. So you going to stand outside the school till 3 o'clock. and you worried about the junior, and I get it, it's a genuine worry. Junior high at one time was separate from high school, but it's given, you heard the stereotype that the blacks were around here are wording the clears, and you scared. I'm thinking she gonna send her child 5'6", the little girl 13. Ma'am, go lay down. Y'all was getting married and having children at 14. Stop it, ma'am. Please stop it. She'll be just fine. You stay outside waiting on her hair gonna fall. All her hairspray gonna be done fell from the humidity in Texas. You should have went home, ma'am. Now you done stayed out there all day and she came out just fine. Girl, I be reading between the lines, girl.
Okay, thank you very much.
My girl say I'm standing outside now. Look at her, and she stood right there. Look at her, she's terrified. Where your husband? He at work. Oh my Lord! I told you she was a stay-at-home mom. Oh, she about to pass out. My girl say I'm gonna stay right here. Now who gonna pop me? My girl say I'm staying right here waiting on mine.
Go to where we want to go.
He's better in school, that's all. He's just one of them old bad actors, that's all. No, he doesn't.
Now hold on. Pay attention to the man in the pink shirt. Remember, I told you it was a whole bunch of propaganda pushed, right? When he asked the black man what he thinks about this, watch what the black man say. Pay attention, because his outlook is different for a specific reason. Because just like we were marching for civil rights and for the right to vote because we thought it was going to advance us as a people, this is the same situation here. Check it out. Hold on. Now watch the black man.
The other day, and they didn't want to go.
Collins, Wade Collins, right? Now, this is Wade Collins. Mr. Collins, what are your thoughts on the integration of your school here?
Well, I think it's one of the best things that could have happened to our community out here. That it might be able to bring our black peoples up on the level with the white people.
Do you have any thoughts for the parents?
Ain't this the one y'all said was high as the cost of living? That little clear girl back here, she ain't gonna miss her camera time. Do you hear me? Watch that little clear girl in the back. I think that's the same one who was over there saying, "Oh well, I don't know. I'm excited about it. I don't really have a problem with it." She been under the bleachers all week. Look.
To our community out here, that it might be able to bring our black peoples up on the level with
let me back him up a
the
little.
white.
Now, this is Wade Collins. Mr. Collins, what are your thoughts on the integration of your school here?
Well, I think it's one of the best things that could have happened to our community out here. That it might be able to bring our black peoples up on the level with the white people.
Look at her. Look. But listen to what he said. Wait, first of all, look at her in the camera. We're gonna go back to what he said. Look, my girl not gonna miss no camera time, debate your mom. But he said it will be good because it'll bring us up on the level as the white people. But also watch the girl in the back.
Bring our black peoples up on the level with the white people.
Do you have any thoughts for the parents of both races who are upset over?
My girl said, "Well, I don't have a problem about it. I think it's a mighty fine idea to have the blacks come on into the schoolhouse. I think it'll be great. It'll be wonderful. Yes, I don't have a problem with it at all. I know my mom has a problem, but she'll be fine. It'll be just fine if the blacks come on into the schoolhouse." My girl ain't missing no cameo. Do you hear me? My girl came back in that camera like this. And look, and then hit the profile. Go ahead on, girl. I like her. I like little Abby. I like Abby. Shout out to, I don't know why I feel like her name Abby. Look at Abby. Shout out to Abby, girl.
Yeah. That it might be able to bring our black peoples up on the level with the white people.
Look, go ahead on, Abby.
Do you have any thoughts for the parents of both races who are upset over having to transfer one school to another back and forth?
Yes, I think it would be a fine thing if the parents wouldn't get upset, would just wait and try to work this thing. It'll take a little time to settle down, but I think when we all settle down, it's going to work out for the best for all concerned.
Some of the white ladies here, as you've witnessed, are concerned about their children having to come all the way over here, and some of the black children having to come from here all the way over there. Apparently, there are some people who are unhappy about this.
Yes, I see this morning that is some are very much unhappy. But I think when a coastal time when they find out that their children get to settle in the school where they can and come to know each other, they're gonna find out that it's gonna be a great fellow.
Royal said that probably was her mama scared to come through the hood. She know her child. She know how her daughter was, huh, Royal? Girl, that was Royal mama scared. She wasn't scared of the hood. She was scared of her child. Go ahead on, Royal girl. Y'all is crazy. I ain't gonna lie, girl. Them people, you know your churn. If nobody else know them, you know your churn. Let's get back into this man.
And they're gonna find out that things will work out better than they even expected to work out.
Why are some of the black parents upset, if they are?
One reason maybe it might be like mine. I talked to mine several years ago about going to Funville or some other white school, and they didn't want to accept that at all. So the tide changed and they brought it back to them. So I think it's going to work out better for them. And I honestly believe that within the next year or so that all the parents that are upset now, they're going to be glad that thing worked out like it has.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Won't be no student. I'm getting student tease. Ain't no way. Ain't no way.
Drop here.
Go ahead.
Okay. You tell me your name, sir?
James Harrison.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
What are your? You seem to have a problem this morning. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that I should be able to go back to my school. Where I went last year.
And you're not able to, I assume.
Well, I'm having a little problem anyway.
Where do they want you to go to school?
I'm zoned to this school, but I want to go back to Reagan where I went last year.
Is Reagan predominantly white or black?
Well, it is predominantly white.
So why do you want to go back there rather than go here?
Because I've got a lot to go back to.
That lady, that girl.
Well, like certain positions,
Harrison, please. You dating one of them lily white girls down there. I could tell by the smirk on your face when you talking about you got a lot to go back to. Harrison, if that girl daddy find out he gonna oops upside your head. Now you don't want to say it on TV because you know you're gonna get in trouble. Your mom gonna oops upside your head, and that girl daddy gonna oops upside your head. Talking about I wanted to go back to Reagan. I had a lot to go back to. What you had to go back to? Harrison think we crazy. He had one of them lily white girls down there. I know it.
Friends?
Well, not necessarily friends. I got friends here.
Well, what is it then?
Yeah,
what is it that makes you really want to go back there enough to question it and argue with them about it?
Because if they say it's for integration, then this is a black school, predominantly black anyway.
You got a point.
Okay, thank you.
His thing is, if you saying that we're doing school zoning for integration, then why take a black child out of an all-white school and put him, or mostly white school, and put him in a predominantly black school? That makes sense. But he still got a little lily white down there. I'm telling you, I can feel it. I can feel it. He still got a little lily white. Now let's get into Pedro. Now, they have a town hall, and Pedro is a member of Texas, right? Pedro about to spit. Now, at first, Pedro had me wrinkling my eyebrow, like, what is you trying to say, Pedro? But then as he started cooking, I started smelling it. You know what I mean? So I said, okay, I see what Pedro trying to say. What Pedro is basically saying that they being taught wrong, they kids are being treated horribly, and he's going to also speak on the fact of being the status of whites. Remember, the Hispanics did indeed go down and fight for the right to have the status of white, but it was not everyday Hispanics. It was the powers that, well, not the powers that be, but the elite and the people in charge. Now, pay attention to this because I learned something from this speech through Pedro. I don't know if his name Pedro. I'm just giving him the name. You know what I'm saying? But let's get into it.
Down to the National Chicano Moratorium that took place last night or yesterday. We got a report that 200 Chicanos were arrested. The 2 Chicanos were killed. One was Ruben Salazar, who is one of the best writers, one of the few writers that Chicanos have. He was in a restaurant. The police went in there and killed him. East LA is on fire. East LA has been closed. No one is coming in. No one is coming out. The electricity has been turned off. That's all I want to say about what happened in Los Angeles. I hope not. Miles has been involved with the student movement, as far as Chicanos are concerned, since it began. This was the original purpose of Mile. We have been involved in other things besides the integration thing that just came up. There are many other issues that have to be considered. Integration is not the only one. It is the one that we feel right now, but there are other things that we have to think about. We have to think about racist gringo teachers that we have in schools that brainwash Chicanos into believing that they're an inferior race, into believing that they're no good. We have to think about the buildings that we have. Why do people in Bel Air and River Oaks and all the other gringo areas, why do they have good facilities, and why do we get all the rundown buildings? Why do we get the worst teachers?
Because you're amongst the blacks.
The worst facilities. Why is it that when they teach Texas history, they tell us que pescaron a los mexicanos con los pantalones para abajo?
Wait, now who speaks Spanish? Woody said something about the Mexicans, something. Go back. I know some words. Run it back. What they teaching y'all, churn?
They tell us que pescaron a los mexicanos con los pantalones para abajo.
Something about the Mexicans, but let me tell you something. They took on the identity of the black Mexicans who did a lot of work, who did all of the slavery, all that. Don't ever let a clear Latina tell you they were the ones enslaved. They are rat and pick and lie. They took on the identity of the black Mexicans who were the ones under slavery, who were the ones fought in the Indian wars out there and everything. It was not them. They are not the original Taino. And I get it. They passed that down generation to generation, and some of them get to believe in it, but that's all a lie.
Why do they tell us? Why do they feed us and mess up our minds with these lies? Every San Jacinto day, the Chicano is reminded that he was beaten. The school books have to be rewritten, and they have to be written by Chicanos.
Remember, they take on the identity of the melanated people who were there before they come as conquistadors. So, yes, the Chicanos or the black Mexicans did go under persecution. They did go under slavery. They went under all those horrible, horrific things. Not his people. But legend has it, they teach it to this one, teach it to that one, and they get to believe in that because they are chameleons just like the other clears, the other colonizers. They take on the identity of other people. So what he's saying, although he believes it, is absolutely not true.
Until now, the Chicano was considered brown. In the census that they take at school, they have white, black, and they used to have an others. We used to be others. Not too long ago, they decided we were Mexican Americans.
Listen, you heard him? He said, when he's talking about status now, he said at first they used to have black, white, then others, and you could put in who you is. He said now they have Mexican American. Look, pay attention.
Chicano was considered brown.
They were considered brown.
In the census that they take at school, they have white, black, and they used to have an others. We used to be others. Not too long ago, they decided we were Mexican Americans. Now, because it's convenient to them, we're white. They are using the Chicano. This is what they're doing. The integration policy is set that if you are a minority, you can go to just about any school you want. The blacks are a minority. It also says that the school district has to provide transportation. All right? Chicanos, according to them, are white. Therefore, we are the majority, and therefore, we don't get the same rights as the other minority. You're brown.
Listen, pay attention. He said, according to the law, the blacks should be able to go wherever they want because they are considered minorities. They were too considered minorities up until this whole school zoning and desegregation thing, and they turned them from minorities to white. Now, that puts them in a status that can be governed by America. Because as long as you put in other, it's kind of like you fall under the umbrella, but you really don't. But once they put you in a status, like an actual status, like a stamped, now they can control you. So what do? Just the same thing they did up in New York. They piled all of the Hispanics on top of the Negroes. They did the same thing in Brooklyn. That's why we got our Erica Minas and Evelyn Lozayas and Jennifer Lopez. They took them and said, okay, you can have the status of white, but treated them the same, or not the same, but almost the same as us. So that's what he's bitching about. Like, yo, you said we were minorities, and according to your law, minorities are able to pick whatever school they want to go to. Now, you got to read between the lines. He's not too keen about his kids going by the Negro schools neither. I know he gonna act like he an ally, but at the end of the day, he's a working class man. He looked like he worked at a coffee shop or something like that. He ain't making nothing but crumbs. You gotta go. You just like the clear woman. You zone according to your paycheck, sir. That's how it goes. But I just thought it was interesting that he's now fighting for the right to be brown because it benefits them. That's that double dutch that a lot of them do. Well, I want to be brown. You said I was brown before. Why can't I be brown now? And I want to be brown so my kids won't have to go to school and pass through this hood that the clear lady was talking about. Okay? And remember, ain't nothing brown about them people. Look at that man. I'm brown. You're brown. That ain't brown. That is skim milk. Okay? That's why I call them all milk community, because I need y'all to understand who's who.
I want to say one thing about politicians, Chicano politicians in particular. I just want to say one thing. Laro Cruz, where are you? That's all I want to say. I just have one more thing to say, and this is going to hurt. And it's going to hurt me more because I'm saying it about my own people, but I have to say it because it's important. I could care less where he lives. Let me say this. For a long time, a lot of the older Chicanos, the middle-class Chicanos, the Chicanos who have, quote, made it or think they have made it, have not bothered to involve themselves with the problems of the people of the barrio. Now that they are feeling it themselves, now they're raising their voices. What about before? Why weren't some of you people involved before? It hurt your people just as much with the other things as it does now. Why weren't you involved before?
Not right on. We need to bring back that Negro. I love it.
It hurts me to say that a lot of Chicano parents are motivated by racism.
Facts.
They don't want their daughters to go to the other schools because they'll have to go with blacks, con negros.
That's right there. Hold that part right there. Because quiet as it's kept, he started his speech off on why I can't choose the school my child go to. Listen, this is what y'all got to understand. Although he's presenting to be an ally, because he's going to finish out the speech, this is the point. Whenever it's convenient to a lot of these people, they utilize it. So if brown status is utilized, is convenient for me to choose a school for my child, I want to be brown. I want to be able to mark other. If it is convenient, or if it's convenient for me, right, to not go to school amongst the Negroes, because none of them want to be in school amongst us. None of them. And he's talking about the Hispanics in government out in America that sell them out. And let me say this, that is the God's honest truth. That happened amongst the clears, that happened amongst the Asians, it happens amongst the Hispanics, it happened amongst all of us. It's just that the Negroes is a different set of treason. You know what I mean? It's a different level of treason amongst the Negroes. But the people at the top always sell the ones down out at the bottom. But in his frustration for saying that they only care about this situation because it affects them, or that the facts of the matter is they just want to be white and they don't want to send their children by the blacks. Sir, I kind of got that from your statement as well. But let me finish letting them cook. Let me finish letting him cook, because he is cooking. And I learned something when he said this, that they are suffering, or they did suffer, and I know they're still suffering, the same things we as Black Americans suffer today. That's why the Black caucus, or whatever they call them, that ain't for us. And it's the same with them. But one thing I will give other groups, they may screw them over, but they're going to look out for them at the same time too. They're going to advocate for them. They're going to rally for them for the most part, not all the time. I just wanted to add that. All right, let's get back into it.
It hurts me to say that a lot of Chicano parents are motivated by racism. They don't want their daughters to go to the other schools because they'll have to go with blacks, con negros. Until the Chicano and the Negro get together, we aren't going to be able to do anything. As long as we are fighting among ourselves between the Chicanos and the Blacks, the gringo can sit up here and laugh at us because he's doing exactly what he wants, keeping both groups down.
Watch the play. Watch the blitz. There you go. Just like all the other ones, if we work together, we will be stronger. No, sir, you need our influence to help y'all out. But on Mad Day, you're gonna call us the Negros like the other ones. Don't do that. And it used to work. Thank you, Most High God. It ain't working no more today. But it used to work. So now he's gonna have a call to action for us all to work together. And this is what he knows. He knows that they have a better chance of getting some type of resolve than we do. That's what they do. See, if we would work together, things will work out better for us. No, we not falling for that no more. There go just me. Fight your mother effing self. Fight for your own stuff. We've been fighting for ours and everybody's. We tired. Okay? Now hold on. Yeah, they all need us. We don't need them. Hold on. Let him run him back just a minute. He got like 60 seconds left. Watch the call for action. Look. Watch the call for unity under the Black and Brown coalition.
Have to go with blacks, con negros. Until the Chicano and the Negro get together, we aren't going to be able to do anything. As long as we are fighting among ourselves between the Chicanos and the Blacks, the gringo can sit up here and laugh at us because he's doing exactly what he wants, keeping both groups down. Whether we like it or not, we have got to, if nothing else, we don't have to love them if you don't want to, but if nothing else, respect one another. That's all. Just learn to respect each other as human beings.
Oh, Richie Valentine, go lay down. Look at Richie Valentine. Y'all remember that movie? Look at Richie Valentine. Girl, yay. Like I said, the only part I think that he was cooking on is him recognizing that there's a status issue going here. Okay. He knows that even though he's a clear Latino, he knows that my child got to go walk through the hood to get down to the schoolhouse because my zoning switched. Sir, it's according to your paycheck and where you live, sir. And the Negroes right on. Oh, man, you know how we is. And y'all know how I get about us. Boy, we let them people, all we need is a motivational speech. Who was that in the audience hollering? Right on. Girl, I thought it was J.J. Evans hollering. Dynamite. Girl, right on. Girl, it's ma'am, sit. I wish I would have been. Sit down, ma'am. Ma'am. Sit down. You sit down. Talking about some right on. Ma'am, please have a seat. He's using his fight to put on us. That's literally what he was doing. He is in his back is against the wall, and he at the mostly predominantly Black school at the doggone rally talking about how it's them at the top. Yeah, they just racist. Sir, you started off this whole thing talking about how you didn't appreciate your child having to walk through the hood to get down to school. Black people in the chat, focus on yourself and your neighbor. but the neighbor who look like you. Let them people fight their own battles. Ain't no black and brown coalition, and I said it. Okay? And I said it. Now, hold on. I wanted to show y'all that I thought that was very important as it pertained to a lot of things that was happening back in those days. Now, I'm gonna go over just a little bit of this about the conditions the schools were in, because this is very vital and important. Again, shout out to Hezekiah News. We're going to get into the conditions of the black schools because, again, not all, but a lot of our schools were jacked up. So going to a clear school was a good idea for a lot of us because guess what? We wanted better conditions for our own kids, right?
But the neighborhoods have changed. Where once the public schools truly represented a cross-section of children of varied incomes and backgrounds, today, unwillingly but inevitably, many city schools have become ghetto schools, a concentration of race, poverty, and defeat.
You put a school down in the middle of a ghetto and you're there, goodbye. And then the principal and his staff and the secretaries, they are down in there, and they must then continue what is known as the educational process.
The teachers are turned off, somewhat the administrators are turned off, somewhat I'm turned off. What I'm trying to say really, the total picture here, is that nobody can function well and effectively in the ghetto. That everybody in it is overwhelmed by the circumstance and by everybody else in it. And it's a total condition which is pressing in upon us.
We've lost them already. These kids are now 14, 15, 16 years old. What we can do with them is nothing more than a holding action.
And just to get the rest of the record straight, teacher training hasn't been making it either. I've trained hundreds, literally thousands, and you know, some of the ones that have really literally broken my heart have been some of my best students who would leave that nice classroom and come out to work in your school or a school like it and quit psychologically within one day. Some of them quit the first day they come on a job, and others quit.
This is 1966. This is a desegregated school as well. This is 1966. That's why you see clear people and you see some white kids, some clear kids and some Negro kids. And they're talking about the conditions of doing school in the ghetto, talking about that it's hard for them kids. And it is. Environment play a huge role in our learning and our cognitive abilities, especially our cognitive development as we grow older. And environment don't necessarily always mean outside in the hood. It could be inside your home too. That's a part of your environment.
But 1 week later, and some of them run to the suburb. But it is a debacle in terms of what happens to young people who get slaughtered when they come into reality.
NET Journal presents The Way It Is.
Tiffany said they smoking in the schoolhouse. Girl, yay. Tiff, listen, at one point, everywhere was smoking. And then they started separating and saying the smoking section and the non-smoking section. I remember when I was younger, Waffle House, as small as Waffle House is, it's always been small like that. Did you know that they had a smoking and non-smoking section? Girl, you rubbing shoulders with the smoking section. Yes, girl, yes. They used to smoke everywhere, at court, at the police station, at school. The bus driver used to smoke. Everybody was smoking a Joe Girl. It was a time you had to be there. You know what I'm saying? When smoking was a thing, when everybody had a cigarette in their mouth. Okay. Yeah. I remember we went in Waffle House and my daddy smoked, but my mama didn't like him to smoke, but he still smoked. Even she know it, but she used to say, you can't smoke. Girl, when we used to walk in there and they say smoking or non-smoking, my daddy would say non-smoking. Now, this the gag. We sitting in non-smoking, but smoking is right here. The booth right behind me, the lady just lit up a Newport. Like, what's... Waffle House having a separate station was just the dumbest thing ever. And again, we didn't have Waffle Houses in New Orleans, but remember, I told y'all my daddy and them used to take us on family vacations every year. So we would stop at a Waffle House as we travel. Girl, the Waffle House having a smoking and that was the dumbest thing I've ever been a part of. Do you hear me? It ain't like back in the day, some biggest places, the smoking would be way over there and then the non-smoking. Girl, you talking about non-smoking, girl. I'm right here next to it. I'm coughing. You know what I'm saying? Girl, yeah, Abundance. You remember when your daddy was in the tree smoking after that? Yeah, after the J-Dubs meeting? Girl, yeah. His LA Gibbs was lighting up in the tree, girl. It was a time. You had to be there. You had to be there. Yes, ma'am. His LA Giz, that's how we called him. His LA Giz was lighting up in the tree. Y'all remember the LA Giz with the lights on the bottom? That's how my daddy got caught smoking one time after we came home from the Jehovah's Witness church. His LA Giz gave him away. Yes, he did. You had to be there. You had to be there. It was a time. My whole family funny, I'm telling you. My whole family is funny. Something is wrong with everybody, I'm telling you. Let's move on. I ain't got time for that. I'm serious. It's LA Giz. That's how we knew it was him. The LA Giz was... He must have hit his foot up against a branch or something. You know what I'm saying? All we know is the tree was on fire. It was lighting up. And we was like, what is that? It's my daddy sitting in the tree, smoking a joint. Girl, it was a time. It was a time. It was a time, girl. You had to be there. Anyways. Yep, they used to smoke in elevators too. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, girl. They need to bring LA Giz with the lights on the back. I liked it them. They need to bring them back. I liked it them.
In New York City, Negro and Puerto Rican children now outnumber white children in the public schools. And that's the case in more and more city schools across the country. 1,200 students attend Junior High 57, a pleasant ghetto school in Brooklyn's Bedford-Stuyvesant district. 3/4 of the children are Negro, 1/4 are Puerto Rican. There are 12.
But we the minority. And I get it. This is a ghetto, so it's typically more blacks than woo. But it's always more of us wherever we at. I'm telling you.
Of white pupils. What kind of an education are these children getting? As is typical of ghetto 7th graders, this class enters junior high, already 2.5 years behind the national norms. If they actually succeed in finishing high school, they will, by that time, have fallen 5 years behind. Principal Lou Schwartz.
It has been true for many, many years. About 10-12% of our school that is learning on what might be termed a fair level and even on a high level. But our basic problem is we've got this 90% of the school which just is not moving ahead. These kids, if we were to meet them anywhere, this 90%, meet them around school, in school, outside of school, they respond and respond well. The question is, something happens to them in the classroom situation, in the school situation, which keeps them from learning.
These harsh facts have rocked the educational community. Across the country, university educators are coming down from their ivory towers to find out what has gone wrong. In a unique experiment, Jack Robertson, professor of education at New York University, and his NYU specialists are joining forces with Principal Lou Schwartz and his staff to see if together they can help salvage this particular 7th grade. For we are at war, and at stake are America's ghetto kids. But we fight with weapons that are from a different age, and we must find new ones when this is the battlefield. NYU plans to divide the 17 classes of the 7th grade into 6 clusters, each made up of 3 classes that will share the same teachers and an NYU cluster leader. This is one such class.
It is virtually impossible for a child to get education in an overcrowded class. And I grew up in schools that had overcrowded classes. It is virtually impossible to get a real education in an overcrowded, populated class.
Calvin, Linda, are you going to sit down? You were great this morning. You were so terrific this morning.
This is class 7-5, and a new teacher at Junior High 57, Freddie Kamenoff, teaches them English. They'll be part of one new cluster.
All right. Please, get with it. I'm waiting for attention still from everybody. I asked you to do something this morning. We did a little
Not him acting like he's smoking a cigarette. Where's your mama? Where is his mama, girl? His dad and his mama must smoke. Look at him.
I'm going to continue with everybody. Please take out your notebooks and turn to a clean page. If you need paper.
5, and a new teacher at Junior High 57, Freddie Kamenoff, teaches them English. They'll be part of one new cluster.
All right. Please get with it. I'm waiting for attention still from everybody. I asked you to do something.
I ought to beat your ass. Now, I know you my elder today, but I ought to beat your ass. You in there trying to play like you lighting a cigarette, and the teacher is trying to call a class to order. See, y'all wonder why back in the days your mom and them used to come into class and whip your ass in front of all the kids. You see what I'm saying? This right here calls for that type of reaction. Now you got to come to the schoolhouse and whip his ass in front of everybody. You have to. That's the only way children like this learn. You know what I mean? You got to come down in your nightgown and your coat. And you got to come with the belt in the hand, and you got to get him from the desk and bust his ass right there in front of the class. Because this one here, girl, I wish I knew his mama. Girl, I would have been ratting. If I was going to that school back in them days, I would have been rushing to his mama's house to say he was in class acting like he's smoking cigarettes. Girl, this is a time. This is a shame. Where your mama at? I can't believe this. He probably been a chain smoker all his life ever since.
Something this morning. We did a little bit of it, but we didn't finish. I'm going to continue with everybody. Please take out your notebooks and turn to a clean page. If you need paper, then ask me. George?
Things never change.
Calvin, you have your loose leaf. Could I ask you to open it? You can go before the period ends, but not now. What's the difference between
Look at they playing tic-tac-toe.
mob, and mope? Let's go. All right. Ralph said the spelling is different. Yes. Have an O. Is the sound really the same? Do these words rhyme? Or if so, which ones rhyme? Who can explain to George what's happening? George?
I guess some things never change. I feel bad for the teacher too, Riri. I'm looking like, dang. Girl, I feel bad for the teacher. And she's looking right meek and she's still trying to teach. Poor thing. Girl, only one person is listening to her and she trying to describe to them the difference between mop and mope. Girl, you can't make this up. See, now I see why my third grade teacher used to pull hair and squeeze our hands. She said, not today, Satan. You little mother effers thought y'all gonna come in here and mess up my day. Now I see why my third grade teacher used to pull hair and squeeze hands. Yes, she did. She used to take Carly up to the desk and she'd grab your ponytail and or she'll take your hand and squeeze it and have you. She did used to do that. Now I see why. Yeah, I see why. I ain't gonna lie, I see why. Girl, let's move on. Now I want to listen. Let's wrap up this portion and we're gonna get to this other portion. Because this whole theme is the education system, right? The whole theme is the education system. We've learned so far that the education system was instituted to make slaves and workers. That's it. Not free thinkers. They didn't want you to be free thinkers. They did not want you to be able to convey or not convey, to even have your own thoughts. That was the whole purpose. Also, on top of that, we learned about desegregating the schools, zoning, Ruby Bridges, and what I believe to be the real reason why all of those things happen is because it's all a bunch of propaganda. They need you interested in school. It's all advertisement. Okay, that's what it all is. It's all advertisement. Okay. The difference between the schools, I'm not gonna lie. If I'm a clear person or a Hispanic person, and my child was in this wonderful school, and then all of a sudden they get zoned to a school like the one we just saw, I ain't gonna lie. I'll probably be at the rally too, at the town hall meeting saying what I got to say. I ain't gonna lie. I would be down there saying what I got to say because that's a horrible environment for any child to be in, let alone to learn in. Okay. So when you look at indoctrination, it's inputted on purpose. This is why your kids cannot miss school. This is why Kamala was over there trying to lock people up about not getting their kids to school. It's about money, obviously, but the biggest part is they have to keep producing these slaves, these workers. That's what this is all about, producing workers. And if you go to college, at least back then, college did teach a little bit better. Now, if you go to college, you slow as a turtle. You dumb as a box of rocks. Okay? So I wanted to piece that up, and now we're going to move right quickly into how the slavery thing was introduced to school. I've showed this documentary before, but we're going to go over a little piece of it before we get off of here. Now, in this documentary, you're going to see Black kids are learning for the first time that they are Africans and they come from slavery. You're going to see the arms of the angel churn on the books, and you're going to see the clears looking around. Everybody's learning at this point that the Black Americans is actually the Africans. And you're going to see how in real time, how just learning something that crazy literally changed the mindset. This is about indoctrination. It changes the mindset of a man. Pay attention, okay? So now we're going to go over here. Hold on. Let me skip the ad. We're going to go over here to my video. I did this a few months ago, or maybe 6 months ago. I can't remember. And I was talking about how we were introduced to that whole slave theory. And here's a documentary that's going to show you a little bit of how it was introduced and what were the effects of this being introduced. Now, you guys pay attention. It's coming up right quick. Let's get into it. Hold on. With this theory and with the stuff they're putting into the minds of the Negro, watch how it literally affects them. Listen to this man. This is very important. Listen to him. Listen to what he said before and then after he done heard this.
It's a horrible situation, and sometimes we never get over that.
As a Negro, I have honestly tried to believe that I was somebody. And I've always fought during my life to keep that feeling that I did have some value. And I say value knowing what that word means. And there's been many a night in my life when I've gone to sleep and known very deep inside me that I really wasn't worth much.
Now, the man you just heard, he's talking about how his life has changed since he found out that they were slaves, right? He said as a Negro, he always had a sense of pride about himself. But after hearing about this, he feel like he's not worth as much. Pay attention.
Believe that I was somebody. And I've always fought during my life to keep that feeling that I did have some value. And I say value knowing what that word means. And there's been many a night in my life when I've gone to sleep and known very deep inside me that I really wasn't worth much.
Now, we see the what. The what is the Africa theory, the Africa slavery thing is now introduced into the picture. Let's examine the why. This man said prior to this, as a Negro, he always felt a sense of value about himself, knowing it with all intent what the word value means. But now it has literally tore him down to see that he was nothing but an African on a boat that came over here for slavery. Okay? Pay attention. Why would that be something instilled into a people? You need to break them down. Remember that kill the Indian, save the man? You're watching it in real time. Kill the Indian, save the man. Now, these Negroes who before this never had any inkling of being no African, being no slave, no nothing. Now all of a sudden we slaves. Pay attention. Why did he not know prior to now that he was a slave from Africa? That's a question we need to be asking. We know why, but this is around the time that this is getting introduced to the people. Hold on.
I still do not really know what being a Negro is or what it means. It means that my skin is a little bit darker. It means that my cultural exposures have been somewhat different to other ethnic groups. It may even mean that as a human being, I might be more sensitive to need and despair.
Oh, yes, that wish I was white kind of thing when you begin to sort of get the feeling of difference, like maybe you're dirty, something's wrong. But there was that feeling, so early you can't even remember where it started. I'm not over it yet. It's part of my American heritage.
That man said that's part of my American. He didn't say African American heritage.
Told we were a people.
Hold on. Bad. He said a part of his American heritage. Watch. Our ancestors. Okay, hold on. Now that was hold on.
Not driving through a past like out of York. That's what you
That's
might
Bill
call historically
Cosby.
significant, because a lot of people think we ought to wash white, but we ain't gonna, you see. Texas. Coming to you, Texas, right down the Chisholm Trail, right here. Right down there with 5,000 black cowboys who never made it to the Hollywood Western. Did you know that? Huh?
Look at all this black history. Hold on. Hush up, Vu. Hold on. Listen. Prior to us being introduced, I'm trying to get to the mile marker, not the mile marker, but the timestamp where they show it in the actual schools. But prior to us being told that this is who we are, here we go. We had no clue of this. Now watch. Hold on. Come back over here. Prior to us knowing this, we had a sense of pride about ourselves. Kill the Indian, save the man. Not paper genocide, mental genocide. Look. Watch these people explain this whole thing. Hold on.
The most written about and the least understood of the world's people. And this term, Negro, demoralizes us and is detrimental. I feel it doesn't give us any association past the slave ship. I think
this the one where the dude was like, people that look like me and you, that is no more. We gonna be why? Hold on. I'm trying to see. Because this is them introducing the word Negro. Hold on, y'all. Let me look for it. I thought I had the timestamp. Hold on. You guys, get the likes up while I look for this timestamp, please. And thank you. Okay, this might be it. Hold on.
States or in Africa or elsewhere is to get rid of this slave named Negro.
This curious word Negro was seldom or never used in...
Let me back it up. Listen. The Negro word, the Negro term, please, is just being introduced. And hold on, let me let this play because I think this is where it's at.
The task of people of African descent, whether in the United States or in Africa or elsewhere, is to get rid of this slave named Negro.
This curious word Negro was seldom or never used in Africa itself.
Yeah.
And this word has no meaning, or no worthwhile meaning at all in Africa. I would doubt myself if it has any useful meaning anywhere else.
How the hell would he know what was used in Africa? Right, Vu? You're right. Let me go find this video because I don't want to keep going through me. Hold on. History of the Negro people, heritage. Let me see. I'm gonna find it. Hold on. But think about what this man. This is the man, the clear man telling us what was used in Africa. How the hell he know? Negro people. Hold on. How the hell does he know? How does he know? But again, when you get your education from these people, you get miseducated. Hold on. Let me go. I want to find the part because Ossie Davis, an actor and all that stuff, he was in on this too. Y'all got to understand. Here we go. No, that thing. Hold on. Here we go.
Oh, yes,
We saw that part.
white kind of thing when you begin to sort of get the feeling of difference, like maybe you're dirty, something's wrong. But there was that feeling, so early you can't even remember where it started.
I'm not over it yet. It's part of my American heritage. We were told we were a people without a past and without a future. And Negro boys and girls learned before very long that they were something special.
You know, at an early age, as soon as you start school, you begin to catch on to the whole racial thing. But once you get into school, you begin to know it and know there's a difference and that the difference is against you.
There's no real reference to me as a Negro or to my father or any of the other Negroes who have contributed so much to the growth of the United States. And I really can't understand it.
I'll never forget the picture in the geography book of a couple of very ragged Africans, you know. Weeks before we got to the lesson, we were steeling ourselves for it. Some Negro child would find the picture first in the book before we got to the lesson and alert everyone. Look on page 22, you see what's there. And then we dreaded reaching that lesson because it was always something about the savages not knowing anything. And we had to sit there and hear this, and instinctively the white children would turn and look at the Negro children, you know, while this lesson was going on.
That was done by design. She's talking about when they got to the part of the social studies or history lesson where they had to learn about that these Negroes were nothing more than African slaves, right? And they got the picture. This is indoctrination 101 right here. One thing she said that was key. The white kids would look over at the black kids, and that automatically instills what inside of these white kids? A level of superiority, a mindset of superiority. And what does it instill in the black kids? Inferiority. That's why you got the man on the bus saying, well, I used to have a sense of pride about myself, but not no more. I'm just nothing but a Negro. You get it? I'm going to run her back just a bit. Because this is them in real time learning that they're from Africa.
And I really can't understand it.
I'll never forget the picture in the geography book of a couple of very ragged Africans, you know. Weeks before we got to the lesson, we were steeling ourselves for it. Some Negro child would find the picture first in the book before we got to the lesson and alert everyone. Look on page 22, you see what's there. And then we dreaded reaching that lesson because it was always something about the savages not knowing anything. And we had to sit there and hear this, and instinctively the white children would turn and look at the Negro children, you know, while this lesson was going on.
My lady say African savages in the book. That's big. That's huge. That's big. If you tell a child, show a child a picture of a savage and tell that child that that's them, you literally break them mentally. Sometimes it's irreparable, but this is one of the other things that the school system, okay, was put in place to do. It has a whole slew of things to do. It has a whole slew of roles and responsibility, almost like an octopus with many tentacles. But one of those things, as it pertains to Black America, right, was they needed to instill the inferiorness or the inferiority complex into us to always make us feel like they are superior. While the whole time is we all getting played, but nevertheless, that's why you hear people today still hollering about white supremacy, white supremacy, white supremacy. You people don't understand when you use terms like white supremacy, you are literally giving reign to the idea that they are superior. Supremacy is another word for superior. Even if we under horrible conditions, that term within itself lends itself to the idea that you still believe that these white that you practice white supremacy are superior to you and they have power over you. And I'm not saying that in some cases it's not the truth, because obviously in some cases it is. There are people who get more privileges, people who get more things than we do. But ultimately, the level of assassination that happens in a child, remember, they're not teaching this to the grown folks. The level of assassination that happens to a child when you show them a picture. I remember seeing the Africans too in the book. Like, damn, you know what I mean? But the level of assassination to a child's character after they see some stuff like that, the child will probably never be repaired. Okay? So, with that being said, I just wanted to add that piece in. It's so much we could talk about as far as the school system, y'all, and we'll come back to it another time. But ultimately, I just wanted to share that with y'all because I thought it was very interesting for us to actually know what this school system is about and why it's here. And if y'all could just do me one favor, two favors. First of all, like the video. It's free. And I love the small crowds that we have over here because it's a better learning environment. So thank you guys for anybody who pulled up and everybody who pulled up. Gina, thank you for being a member for 4 months. And also, thank you for the super chat. What size t-shirt, please? Kiss Saint. Wait, t-shirt for me? A medium. A medium should be fine for me. But yeah, it's a time, man. It's a time, and we don't even realize how crazy this stuff can be, right? Like, we don't even realize the level of how our subconscious literally control everything about us. We Call BS Podcast is another thing too, Vu. I remember in school, the white children would look at us blacks like we were Africans, and the whole time we were looking at them like, who the Africans too? I know that's right, because I know when I was in school to be called the African booty scratcher, child, you had to be crispy burnt black, and you had to look completely different from the masses. It was typically the crispy burnt black child, and we would call them African booty scratchers. Didn't we? And we would call them that because the whole joke or ribbon of it was that you don't look like us and you ain't one of us. But anyways, y'all, I love y'all down to the ground. I'm about to joke y'all up out of here. I'm about to get myself together, probably sit down and smoke my hookah, girl. That's all I be doing anyway. And probably do some other stuff for the channel. But you guys, thank y'all for pulling up. I appreciate each and every one of y'all. Keep your head on the swivel. And again, the only thing that I ask y'all to do is stop focusing on the what, and let's start putting more concentration on the why. That's with anything in life. Let's start putting more concentration on the why. Love y'all down to the ground. I'm about to joke y'all out. Peace. Happy Educational Friday. I hope y'all have a wonderful weekend.
Mic check, 1 2 1 2. We live, baby. Come on. That's right. Okay. Can you hear me now? Oh, let's go. It's your boy Big Chew, the voice of the beat. You know what I won't blaze up. Come on, blaze up.
It's the beat for me.
Wow, 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 wow. For your guy, for your B-O-Y. Drop it for your guy, for your B-O-Y. Do it for your guy, for your B-O-Y. Come on, baby, we live. For your boy. For your boy. Also for your boy. Fix it for your boy. Drop it for your lift it up. Then it bust it open, lift it up. Yeah, come on, lift it up. Then it bust it open for your B-O-Y. Bend it, for your rockin' for your lift it up, baby. Mix it with your bossa now. Come on, Blaze, so you know. Drop me a nasty beat.
Mr. Carroll, how you give the voodoo doll time to talk? I don't get no fucking time to talk.
Who the voodoo doll is?
The nigga you just had up here.